Hello, this is Storybooks channel. New videos are posted every day. Subscribe and click the bell.
Camille had just parked her car outside the supermarket when an expensive phone began to ring in her purse. She cursed with irritation, thinking it was from work, and picked up the phone, but when she heard her husband's voice, she immediately changed her tone. "Yes, Kevin, I'll be home soon. I'll buy us some groceries for the weekend, and then I'll come straight to you. Have you had dinner at my place? No? Are you waiting for me? How nice. I'll be there soon. Don't miss me." Camille was a businesswoman of Balzacan age, but she looked simply stunning. She spent a lot of time taking care of herself: beauty salons, massages, fitness centers, and expensive boutiques. With her scrawny and trim figure, the woman looked considerably younger than her years. Her husband's business, the shoe business, now rested on her alone, and she had no right to let him down, so she spun day and night like a squirrel in a wheel. Procurement, recruitment, and supervision of staff, accounting audits and reports, important negotiations, all this rested on her delicate woman's shoulders. Her husband 5 years ago was confined to a wheelchair for life, all because of an accident. But they started from scratch, together, shoulder to shoulder. At first they traded at the market, then opened their own store, then another one, and it went on. Since her husband, Kevin, barely survived, Camille took on everything: the house, the business, the family life. Sometimes it was so hard that I just wanted to howl with exhaustion. But she always told herself, do not sour. Pull herself together, wipe off the snot, and go to battle. Arms and legs in place, no need to whine. Kevin's 100 times worse, and he's not doing bad. The woman's character was very stubborn, and she certainly had determination and tenacity. She loved her husband very much, and Camille and Kevin, in spite of all the difficulties and hardships of life, were able to carry that bright feeling through life without losing a single gram. But they had no luck with their husbands' carers. Sometimes they were irresponsible, sometimes rude, and later they even stole jewelry and money from the drawer. Kevin, of course, was able to do many things by himself, but still he could not do the whole day without help. Every day he had to have massages and procedures. In these thoughts and worries, Camille got out of the car and walked to the supermarket. Near the store, she suddenly noticed a very poorly dressed young girl. She was wearing a thin, washed-out jacket, a scarf over her head instead of a hat, and autumn boots in this blistering cold. She was holding the hand of a boy about 5 years old. He was dressed better, warmer. It was obvious that the mother did not spare money for the child, but she obviously saved money on herself. They were tramping outside the store. My son clung to his mother, and in the woman's eyes was such a longing and hopelessness. She looked around fearfully, as if she did not know where to go. Camille had a trained eye, and she could see at once that the woman was not a beggar or a thief. She was just confused, and did not know what to do. Camille suddenly felt unbearably sorry for this poor young mother, and suddenly thought, what if she was offered the job of a nurse? She wouldn't steal for sure. Giving into an impulse of emotion, Camille approached the stranger and asked straight out, "Hello, my name is Camille. I see that you are upset about something or that something has happened to you. I can offer you a job, if you need one. How would you like to be a nurse for my disabled husband? I guarantee decent pay. What I need from you is decency and honesty. Because the last nurse got naughty and started stealing. It's hard to find qualified and decent staff these days." The young woman looked at her dumbfounded and perplexed. It's not every day that strangers in the street offer jobs to passersby, so she was clearly frightened. "I am Maria. I really need a job right now. Are you sure you're not cheating? I'm not alone, I have a son. And as it happens, we have nowhere to live. Is it possible to live with you? I'll probably refuse though. I'm scared. What if I end up in a cult or a brothel? And then what will happen to my son?" Camille smiled cheerfully and pulled out her business card. "Look, my husband and I have our own shoe business. We have been living and working here for many years. Everyone knows us. I move in serious circles. So don't worry, it's not a scam or some kind of slavery. I really need a good nurse, not to steal and not to be lazy. If you work hard and do your best, I won't hurt you with money. So Maria, do you agree? You can live with us. We have a large mansion. We'll give you a separate room with your son. What is the boy's name? The young woman replied, Alex is his name. But you don't know me at all. Maybe I'm a thief too. Camille laughed. Believe me, I've been working with people for years, and that's one thing I know about people. You're not a thief, you're obviously in a bad situation. Am I right? I can see it in your eyes. You look scared to death and confused. Tears immediately came to Maria's eyes. And it's true, you guessed it. The situation is the worst. My mother died, and my stepfather threw me and my son out on the street. Here in this bag is all our stuff. Thank you, I agree. I'll take good care of your husband. You won't regret hiring me. Alex is quiet, not spoiled, he won't be a problem. Camille smiled. That's fine. Get in the car. It's warm in there because the baby's freezing to death. I'll just get some groceries and we'll be on our way. All right? I'll be right back. As Maria walked with her son to the car, Camille noticed that the boy was limping badly on his right leg. At the supermarket, the businesswoman bought 4 huge bags of food. Did not forget about the baby and bought him some toys, coloring books, pencils, and sweets. He will need something to do. It's such a shame about the little boy. He's so small and already limping. On the way home, Camille couldn't stand it and asked after all, Maria, I noticed that Alex is limping a lot. What's the matter with him? I'm not idly curious. I was just wondering if there's anything I can do to help him. Was he born with this? The young mother sighed and replied, No. Alex was born healthy. A year ago, he climbed a tree in the garden, but he fell badly and broke his leg. They put a cast on it in the village, but the doctor must have been inexperienced. His leg had not grown back properly. Now he needs an expensive operation, but I don't have that kind of money yet. I hope I'll earn it. Then I'll spend it all on my son. He's the most precious thing I have in my life. Maria and Alex timidly entered the huge country mansion. She had never seen such luxury, and the baby even less so. Alex huddled close to her, and was very shy after all. The environment was unfamiliar. A very pleasant elderly man, with glasses and a neat beard, wheeled himself up to meet them. When he saw Camille, he was delighted, and he and his wife embraced tenderly. Then he looked at Maria and Alex and smiled at them affectionately. Good evening. Do we have company? What's the charming boy's name? Let's get acquainted. I'm Kevin, the owner of this house. And he held out his hand to the boy in a manly manner. The boy responded gravely. My name is Alex. My mother's name is Maria. Camille explained the situation to her husband. Darling, I found you a caregiver. Maria just really needs a place to live and a job, and we need a caregiver. I think we could use Alex. Do you? You don't mind kids in the house, do you? The man winked at the baby. I'm all for it. I won't be bored. Yes, Alex. Don't be shy. Let me show you something interesting. I've got a real frigate. You'll love it. I've been building it myself for 3 months. All the parts are just like the real thing. You can't tell the difference. It even moves. Alex immediately forgot about the embarrassment and followed Valerie into his office. And Camille and Maria went into the kitchen to sort out the packages and make dinner. Everything went smoothly. They were chatting nicely. And in an hour, they were eating beef chops with potatoes and Greek salad. That's how Maria began to live and work in the house. I must say she was very happy and comfortable here. She immediately hit it off with Kevin, and she performed all her duties to the best of her ability. If something was awkward or clumsy at first, he did not scold her. Patiently told her how to do it right. Alex liked it here too. Kevin taught him to play dominoes and checkers. They read the syllables together and made paper airplanes. In the presence of the child, the man even seemed to forget his serious illness, to cheer up. Now his days were not dragging on like a dull gray mass, but were running. Maria and Camille became very close. Often in the late afternoon, they would sit over a cup of coffee and have a simple, laddie-like chat. Camille would tell the young woman about her life. You don't think, Maria, that all this wealth fell on me and my husband from the sky. We are both engineers. We studied at the university in parallel streams. It was there that we met, and we worked together in the library, writing notes and cheat sheets for exams. Kevin was so funny. He was tall, skinny, awkward, and with big ears. He was always laughing at me and trying to compliment me, but when he said something stupid, I just laughed and didn't take him seriously. I've always had plenty of suitors. Kevin was stubborn. He kept following me around. Wherever I went, he went. He and I were just friends at first. Then one day I was walking late to the dorm. I stayed at my girlfriend's. It was already nighttime. And then I was accosted by two hooligans. They took my purse and grabbed my gold earrings and wanted to rip them out. I screamed. Not a soul around. And then Kevin just burst out of the ground. He kicked them so hard, but he got his eyebrows stitched up too. But he saved me. He risked his life. He didn't let me get hurt. And that's when I looked at him differently. I thought, I'm not lost with him. We started dating. And I did not immediately, gradually fell in love with him, but so that to this day in him not to envy. We went through so much together, there was everything. In the 90s, our research institute was closed. We started trading and there were thefts. We gave birth to our son Andrew and brought him up. Not once have I regretted that I tied my life to that man. Our son was such a clever boy. He got excellent grades and finished school with a gold medal. Then it was a pity that he did not want to go into science, and after university he also went into business. He separated from us and lived on his own. We bought him an apartment, and then this terrible accident happened. He and my father were on their way from a restaurant, a business meeting. Andrew started fooling around, speeding around. He was tipsy, but he wouldn't agree to call a cab. So he lost control. They crashed into a bridge pylon. My son was killed on the spot, and my husband underwent 2 complicated surgeries. He was literally pulled together piece by piece, and still could not get back on his feet. That was such a terrible time. I still haven't come to my senses, although 5 years have passed. At that time, I thought I would go crazy with grief. The funeral of my only son, my husband's surgeries, my business started to come apart at the seams and collapse. I couldn't stand it and took all my son's photos and things to the attic. I couldn't bear to look at his portrait. My soul was torn to shreds. Kevin also fell into a deep depression. It's no joke to be a helpless invalid in an instant. He and I went through a long course of therapy with a psychotherapist. It was he who advised us to become a team again. So I would take over my husband's business, and he would help me with all the business affairs from home. That's how we live now. Except that this very business takes up almost all my time. The house is a mess, and my husband's gonna be howling all by himself. I am so glad you and Alex are here with us. I can see how Kevin has come back to life in a month. He is unrecognizable. He used to be able to lie in bed with the windows closed for half a day and not even get up to eat. It would break my heart to look at him, and I couldn't do anything. If I sit at home, that's it, you've lost business. And I pity my husband. He also wants to communicate with me. And you, Maria, why are you on the street? And who is Alex's father? Why he is not with you? Are you divorced? You don't say anything about yourself. The young woman sighed and replied, because there's nothing to tell. I'm a country girl myself. My father left the family when I was under a year old, so I lived alone with my mother. It was hard. It was a big farm. I helped her with everything. She was so tired. She worked in the garden and on the farm from dawn till dusk, no matter how you look at it. But it was hard for a woman in the village alone. And when I was 13, she brought my stepfather, that horrible Sam. And all hell broke loose in our family. At first, he helped at least a little, but then he started drinking more and more, getting handsy. I begged my mom 100 times to leave him, but she wouldn't. She was afraid of him. I was also worried about what people would say. In the village, many men drink, and it is not considered shameful. So I could hardly wait till I finished school, and then I left for the city. I didn't care where, as long as it was far away from the unbearable stepfather. I felt very sorry for my mother. She suffered with him, but what could I do? I rented a room in a hostel and got a job as a waitress in a cafe. And then I fell in love. And then it was all trivial. I got pregnant and had a fight with my boyfriend. It's a very painful subject for me. Can I not tell you about it? I'm going to burst into tears. I had to go back home and have the baby. Mom, of course, forgave me, accepted me. We sewed diapers and vests together. She just adored her grandchild. She did not dote on him. But my stepfather was more furious than ever. Shouted that I'm such a good-for-nothing. I had a bastard and brought him on his neck. And he doesn't need a freeloader. And all the villagers washed all the bones in the village. It's always like this. It is necessary to go out with the baby in the store, and immediately behind him I hear, "See, her mother sent her to work, and she brought her in a hem shamelessly." Who is the father? It is unknown, in whom only such a promiscuous, it is not clear. As long as my mother was alive, Alex and I were still patient, although my nerves and strength were already at their limit. Alex had been scared out of his mind to climb a tree because his kind stepfather threatened to whip him with a belt. And then my mom died. My heart couldn't take the abuse. She had a massive heart attack. After her funeral, my stepfather told me so. "I don't want you here with your backbiter. Otherwise, I'll give you such a sweet life, you'll be in trouble. I'm not old yet, maybe I'll get married. And what do I need you for? Where you got your son, go live there. Don't sit on my neck." And what could I do? The house was his. My mother stupidly sold our house a long time ago, and he promised to put the money in the bank for the interest, and he drank it all to poverty. So we left, wherever we could see. I got off the bus at the supermarket and almost cried. I can't imagine what to do. One suitcase of things for two, that's my whole life. No money, nowhere to go. So you were sent to me by God himself, no less. Thank you, Camille, for sheltering me, keeping me warm, paying me a good salary. If I do something wrong, you just tell me, I'll fix it in a jiffy. What she heard brought tears to Camille's eyes. She thought, my God, so young and so much suffering. And there was no light in her life. It's unbelievable. She had to help the boy. It's no good living with a limp all your life. And aloud the woman said, "Never mind, Maria, there will be a holiday on our street too. Cheer up. You and I have started a tearful theme for the night. Let's have 5 drops of cognac. I'll call Kevin and go to sleep. And tomorrow I'll make an appointment for you and your son to see an orthopedist in a private clinic. Let him see what's wrong with his foot." Another couple of months flew by. Camille was very happy with the caregiver. She now had the peace of mind that when she arrived home in the evening, she would find a delicious dinner, a clean house, and a satisfied spouse. Maria cooked wonderfully, massaged her husband regularly, and he stopped complaining of exhausting pains in his legs and drank handfuls of painkillers. That's why Camille paid Maria a very decent wage and gave him a bonus as well. The young woman was finally able to clean up and greatly transformed and beautified herself. She made a beautiful hair, gentle manicure, bought some fashionable things. And of course, she stubbornly saved money for Alexa's surgery, not forgetting to spoil him with toys and new things. The little boy was also wonderful, calm, mature, and sensible beyond his years. Soon a wedding anniversary was planned at Camille and Kevin. 40 years they lived together. The Jubilees decided to celebrate the occasion in the most expensive restaurant in town. In recent years, Camille had forgotten what rest was. No light, just endless work. That's why she wanted to give up everything for one evening and relax. Have a drink, eat something nice, listen to good music, dance after all, and take her mind off all her problems. And Kevin hasn't been out of the house much, except to the hospital for checkups. It would be good for him to be out in the community too. After all, disability wasn't the end of life, and he'd become a recluse. Maria was also invited as the host's nurse. It took 3 weeks to prepare the celebration, but in the end, everything was perfect. The table was full of exquisite delicacies. Pleasant music was playing. The guests were socializing, eating, and drinking expensive wines. Among the invited guests were both business partners and friends and relatives. Kevin was there in his own person, and it's odd that he was in a wheelchair. All the same, he looked very dignified. The guests congratulated the couple and gave them expensive gifts. But somewhere in the middle of the celebration, a well-known pop singer was to come. Camille specially hired her to intrigue and surprise the guests. Everyone is waiting for the show, and it turns out that the star is sick and can't make it. Her art director called and canceled the show. What a force major. The guests asked for songs, and Camille was in a panic and didn't know how to tell them that the singer wasn't coming. And suddenly, Maria whispered to her, "If you want, I can sing. I'm not a singer or a superstar, of course, but I used to be good at it." Camille was very surprised and even more upset, wondering how this would not spoil the impression of the party at all. What could an ordinary village woman perform, ditties or something? They would make fun of her. But Kevin was unexpectedly supportive, nodded his head, and said into the microphone, "Dear guests, we have a slight force major. The actress is sick and won't be coming. What can you do? Anything can happen in life. But don't worry, we won't stay without songs and entertainment." Maria Simonova, my nurse and a very nice person, decided to make a surprise and sing a song as a present for our anniversary. Shall we support her with a round of applause? The tipsy guests clapped and waited in amazement to see what would happen next. They'd never seen a businessman of this caliber let a nurse on stage before. I wondered, what was going to happen now? Maria stepped onto the stage on her unsteady legs. She looked around and was even more frightened. A large number of very important people were looking at her, so as not to embarrass herself, she greeted the guests and said quietly, "Today is a big celebration. It's the anniversary of the wonderful people who helped me a lot in my life and supported me in difficult times. I want to sing you a love song. It is very dear to me because it is the memory of my beloved man. He loved it very much and often sang it to me. Please don't judge me too harshly. I am not a singer and far from the world of show business. It's just from my heart and soul." Maria took the microphone in her hands and sang, "The day silently replaces the night outside your window. My favorite. The rain sows coolness with wet silver. With the arrival of September, the whole country is showered with gold leaves. The autumn garden slumbers, as if waiting for spring." It was so beautiful and wonderful, so sincere and heartfelt, that she began to sing along and clap, and Camille sat sobbing. The tears were streaming from her eyes without stopping, and everything was turning over in her soul. Because it was her late son Andrew's favorite song. He sang it often and always listened to it everywhere, at home, in the car, singing it in the shower. The young woman looked so organic and wonderful on stage. Long, curly blonde curls, minimal makeup, and a simple, but very elegant dress, fitted with a thin belt. She had the kind of natural charm and charisma that you rarely see nowadays. The guests gave up drinking and eating and were fascinated by her. When Maria finished singing, she was applauded for a long time and asked to continue the concert. And she sang again and again, and so for an hour. Her vocal cords were hurting from the first use, but nevertheless Maria was happy. It had been a pipe dream of her childhood to become a singer. She performed everywhere. Starting from kindergarten, she was told by her teachers that she had talent. But who needed it in the village, that talent? Get up early and work hard. And now it seemed to her that her dream was coming true right then and there. Many people filmed her performance and applauded sincerely. Maria's voice was really nice and melodious. When the guests, at last, let the nurse off the stage, she bowed to the audience, sat down at the table, and greedily drank water glass by glass, trying to catch her breath a little. She felt hot and faint, and the blood rushed to her face from the excitement she had undergone, for she had never performed in public, and she decided to go out into the fresh air. Camille, noticing that Maria was coming out, took her purse and followed her. She desperately needed to ask her one question, without delay, right here and now. Everything depended on it. The woman was shaking. She could not believe what she was hearing. Was it really just a coincidence? Camille began at once, without any preamble. "Maria, you said from the stage that the song My Beloved is a memory of your loved one. Is that true? What was his name?" A surprised Maria nodded. "Yes, it's true. His name was Andrew. He's the first and only love of my life so far. But it's hard for me to talk about it. I'm sorry. Can we not talk about it now?" I'm too excited as it is. I can't get over it. I didn't even know it was so scary to sing in public. Camille wouldn't let up. She couldn't later. She had to find out now, immediately. She took the picture of her son out of her purse and handed it to Maria. Do you know this man? Tell me the truth. I need to know the truth. It's very important to me. Maria looked at the photo, cried out, and collapsed like a stone, right on the steps of the restaurant, emotionless. Panic and commotion ensued. An ambulance was called, and on its way, they tried to revive her on their own, splashing her with cold water and slapping her cheeks. Maria finally came to her senses, little by little. Camille exhaled and wailed. Maria, what's wrong with you? Aren't you feeling well? Were you worried when you sang? You gave us all a scare, didn't you? The young woman suddenly burst into tears and said softly, That guy in the picture is my first love and Alex's father. I never expected to see him. It's been so many years, but I can't forget him, I can't. Who was he to you? How did you get his picture? Now Camille was crying, and Kevin was just in shock. He's our son, Andrew, who died in an accident 5 years ago. So Alex is our grandson. Oh my God, what a blessing. We thought we were the only ones left on this earth. He's our little man. It's unbelievable. The guests, upon hearing the stunning news, almost fell out of their chairs. What a son of a nurse turned out to be the grandson of businessmen. This is not always seen in the TV series. What an anniversary. It was worth the trip. Already at home, sitting late at night in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, Camille asked, Maria, tell us how you and Andrew met, and why we didn't know anything about it. Why did we split up? You see, as a mother, I want to know everything that happened to my son. It's important to me. Anyway, I'm not going to judge you or accuse you of anything. I just want to know more about my son's life. Maria sighed heavily and began the story. When I was a waitress, Andrew often came to our cafe for coffee and a bite to eat. That's how we met. I liked him immediately. He was such a cheerful, nice guy. He complimented me, then once gave me a bouquet of flowers and asked me out on a date. I was so worried, I thought I was going to die. Our love was mutual. I know for a fact. I felt with every fiber of my being that he loved me. We started dating. He was my first and only man. Everything was so wonderful. He used to read me poetry, compose it himself, and sing that song in my ear. I was so pleased. Nobody ever took care of me like that. I still have it right here in my soul. I thought we were going to get married. I sincerely believed that we would be together all our lives. Andrew introduced me to his friends. We went on several trips to the countryside. And then I felt nauseous and wanted to sleep. I was stupid and didn't understand what was wrong for a long time. I thought I was poisoned or sick. And when I bought the test, I was shocked. Pregnant. I called Andrew right away and was flying like on wings. I imagined how happy he would be because it was his baby. I could already imagine him introducing me to his parents, seeing myself in a wedding dress. After all, it's so important for every girl. But when my beloved heard this amazing news, he immediately lost his temper and began to talk me into getting an abortion. Maria, how come? I thought you were protecting yourself. What kids at our age? I want to live more for myself. I haven't told my parents anything about you yet, and now you're pregnant. Maybe we shouldn't be in such a hurry. We've got our whole lives ahead of us. I love you a lot, but getting pregnant wasn't really part of my plan, to be honest. What kind of parents are we? I was so angry and terribly offended. I slapped him in the face and ran away crying. Everything inside of me was bubbling. How could it be? So sleeping with me was part of his plan, but the pregnancy that happened because of it was not. He called me several times and I didn't pick up the phone. I couldn't forgive him for saying that. Much later, I hated myself for it. I'm sure Andrew wanted to apologize and make up. He was very nice, he was just confused. And then he was gone, completely gone. I suffered so much, I thought he had left me. I'd only found out through my friends that he had tragically died. It was a disaster. I didn't even know who his parents were. So I had to quit my job and go home to my mother in the country to give birth. That's the whole story. But Andrew is still here in my heart. I can't forget him, that's all. I loved him very much, and he loved me too. I know that for a fact. Camille was in shock. Her head was spinning. You poor girl. I can imagine what you went through, how you suffered. But you must agree that it was an incredible coincidence that I met you that day outside the supermarket. Can you not believe it? I looked at you and something turned over in my soul. It must have been fate itself that brought us together. No other way. You are the closest thing to us now, and Alex too. Thank you, my dear, for not having an abortion and keeping the pregnancy alive, giving us a grandchild. And don't hold it against Andrew. He's not a sneak, I'm sure. He was just very young and inexperienced then, so he didn't know what to say, how to confess to us. Do you want us to go to his grave tomorrow? We'll check it out. You've probably never been there, have you? Maria nodded quietly. I want to. Talk to him. Ask for forgiveness, too. We were both good. He said something stupid. I was offended. My pride kicked in. We had a stupid fight and broke up, but things could have been different. The next day, as agreed, the women drove to the cemetery to see Andrew. Maria was frozen, staring for a long time at the brown favorite eyes with a squint from the portrait and the painfully familiar dimple in his beard. And then suddenly she fell right on his grave and burst into tears in her voice, long stroking his portrait and whispering something to him for a long time. Camille sat quietly on the bench and knew it was necessary. Let her cry. These are tears of purification. With each tear she shed, she would feel better. All the resentment and anger that had accumulated over the years would be gone, and her soul would finally be at peace. Alex had a very complicated surgery. Then there was a long rehabilitation period. Maria was with him all the time, and Camille visited her in the hospital. She and her husband paid for everything. She didn't spare any money for her grandson. When the boy was discharged, they decided it was time to tell him the truth about his father and grandparents. Kevin took over this difficult conversation. He was great with the baby and was sure he could find the right words to explain everything to him. In the evening, he drove the stroller into Alex's room. He was drawing something, concentrating. The man looked at the drawing. It showed a man, a woman, and a baby, and also the sun, the sky, and the sea. Kevin complimented the boy. Good drawing. Let me guess who's here. That must be you. And that's your mom. And who's that? I don't get it. The boy said seriously. You guessed right. And that's my daddy. I want him to be with us too. When I ask my mom about my dad, she immediately gets sad, kisses me, and doesn't say anything. Why don't you know? Everything in the man's soul stirred and turned upside down. And he asked, Do you wish you had a grandparent? Would you? Alex smiled. Of course I would. Only my grandmother died, and there's no one else. It's just me and my mom. Kevin cautiously began to get close to the main thing. No, Alex, you're wrong. You have your own grandparents. Do you want me to tell you a story? The boy nodded with interest, and the man began the story. Your mom and dad loved each other very much, like a prince and a princess in a fairy tale. But then they happened to fall apart. Grown-ups sometimes do such irreparable, stupid things. When you grow up, you'll understand. And then Mommy gave birth to you, such a nice boy. And Daddy, as it happened. He's not with us now, he's up there in heaven. That's why Mommy gets so sad when you ask her where Daddy is, you know? But you have your own grandparents. They just didn't know they had such a wonderful grandchild. Can you imagine? And now they do. Your grandfather is me, Alex, and your grandmother is Camille. That's the story. Are you happy about it? We'll never be apart now, we'll live together. If you want, we can all go to the sea together in summer. You've never been there, have you? Alex jumped up like he was scalded and climbed deftly into Kevin's arms. He wrapped his little arms around him and snuggled trustingly. Dad, it's so great to see you. I didn't like you for nothing. I knew you were good. The man felt such a wave of tenderness and love for his grandson that it brought tears to his eyes. He too hugged the baby in return. Alex, grandson, I'm very glad we found you too. Shall we go and meet Granny again? Alex nodded happily, and they left the room. Maria and Camille were on pins and needles, waiting to see how the conversation would end. The women were worried whether the baby would understand everything. But when a joyful Alex ran up to Camille and hugged her first with the words, "Grandma, I'm glad you found me. You're the best. You saved me and my mom." Camille burst into tears and hugged her grandchild too. And Maria burst into tears. It was so touching. She could not believe that she was a grandmother. She had been a grandmother for 5 whole years. She wanted to sing and dance and shout it to the world. Grandpa gave his grandson the coolest phone, and the happy boy ran into the room to play with it. But not half an hour later, he just took off again and told everyone, "Mom, you're an internet star. Your songs have gotten thousands of hits. You have tons of likes and comments. Everybody loves the way you sing. Wow, my mom's a star. I'm going to tell everyone about it." Maria, who was surprised, could not understand anything because she did not care about the internet during all these events. But when she went to YouTube, she was astonished. It turned out that one of the guests had uploaded her performance at the anniversary party, just for fun, and it instantly blew up the internet. She gained fans and even a fan club. She had never dared to dream about such crazy popularity. She was not a singer and had never studied it. How is that even possible? A few days later, representatives of the press and media companies came to their house. They offered to record a new song in a professional studio and to sign a cooperation agreement with them. The dumbfounded woman was totally shocked and did not even know what to answer. "Oh, really? I'm not a singer. What if it doesn't work? I'll only embarrass myself." At that time, at the anniversary party, it was from the heart. I really wanted to sing that song. And I've never even been to the studio. I don't know what I have to do there. I can't do it. But the producer assured her, "Fear nothing. I've been working for many years, and I've brought more than one pop star into the world. Let me tell you something. Most of them can't even sing. Yeah, they're just kids of some insanely rich oligarchs. And you're a nugget. Believe me, there's not many of them. So you'll do well, I'm sure. Gods do not burn pots." Camille supported Maria. "Well, at least try it. You have nothing to lose, right? Really, I feel I'll have to look for a nurse again. Since my daughter-in-law turned out to be a singer, what do you think? And don't worry about Alex. We'll look after him. We'll find a nanny. Isn't that what you wanted? You said you wanted to be a singer since you were a kid. Well, here it is. Your big break has arrived. Take it. There won't be another one. Destiny doesn't give out gifts like this every day, believe me. You don't have to bury your head in the sand like an ostrich. Bravely go to your dream and believe that it will come true and everything will work out. My husband and I believed in ourselves once, and we did not fail. We got everything we wanted. And you can do it." Maria felt sorry for me. "Thank you for your kind words and support. You're probably right. I will try. I was not." And Maria agreed to the tempting offer. It turned out that recording songs in the studio was very hard work. She had to re-record the words 100 times, and her voice would break at the most inopportune moment. It took her a long time to get everything right. But in the end, after titanic efforts on both sides, she succeeded. They gave her a beautiful pseudonym, Mia, and completely changed her appearance. She was persuaded to become a platinum blonde. Maria Long did not agree to cut and damage their naturally thick blonde curls, but then grudgingly agreed. She decided that at least once in your life should experiment. After all, professionals know best. Her eyes were blue, she had a wonderful figure, and childbirth did not spoil her at all. On the contrary, it made her look a little softer and less angular. When Kevin and Camille finally saw Maria perform, their mouths dropped open in amazement. The music channel host announced, "And now the premiere of a new song and a new rising star, Mia." An incredible beauty appeared on the screen, nothing like the Maria they knew. The blonde with an asymmetrical haircut, wearing a tight mint-colored dress, looked simply stunning. They gave her a very interesting, spacey makeup look, and she even looked like an alien. And when she sang, it was just amazing. Her voice was very melodic indeed, and had such diverse and unusual overtones. Fame and popularity literally fell upon Maria, and she just woke up the next day famous. Their family was besieged by journalists and obsessive fans, from whom there seemed to be no escape. This, of course, initially turned Maria's head. She had never imagined such a fairy tale. She, a simple country girl, could not have dreamed in her wildest dreams that she would be on television and sing for the whole country. She started going to recordings of songs and solo performances, and everything whirled so fast and impetuous that it completely blew the young woman's mind. A sea of flowers, popularity, her songs were heard from every window. She was recognized everywhere. But soon she fully felt the other side of fame. She hardly ever saw her son. He was with his grandparents all the time. The little boy was very upset and hurt when she, not having had time to be with him for a few hours, again packed up and left. Alex cried and asked, "Do you not love me at all anymore? Why are you going again? You just got back, didn't you? I miss you. Don't leave me." Maria stroked her son's head and tried to explain it all to him somehow. "Well, I'll be back again soon. Don't you feel bad with your grandparents? Do you want me to bring you the coolest robot ever? Just tell me." The baby was turning his head sadly. "What do I need a robot for if you're never home?" It tore the woman's heart to shreds, and she realized that she was becoming more and more estranged from her son. The baby was becoming withdrawn and sad again, and she used to be one with him. It became almost impossible to go out just to walk around. You had to smile, hold your face, and say only what the producers prescribed. After the speeches, there were champagne receptions and severe headaches in the morning. Men looked at her incredulously, and some made explicit allusions of intimacy. Like, what's the big deal? In the business of show business, it's normal. All this was more exhausting than any vegetable garden in the village, and Maria became terribly tired of it. More and more often she wanted to cry, lock herself in 100 locks, and get away from everyone, and just be a little alone with herself. One day at one of her solo performances, she was presented with flowers by a very nice young guy. He modestly said, "Maria, you sing so well. I didn't know Andrew, the bride, had such talent." Maria almost cried out, "Did you know Andrew? I don't remember you. Do I know you?" The guy smiled. "We crossed paths a few times in company. Remember when you and Andrew came to our country house? We were strumming love songs on the guitar till late at night. I was crazy about you back then. But you didn't even look at me, unfortunately. You were completely absorbed in my friend. So I didn't want to bother you. But can I get to know you better now? Or doesn't a star like Mia get to meet regular guys now? My name is Frank. How about coffee? Or you want me to take you for a ride on my bike through the city at night? Anything you want, just say the word." Maria suddenly looked at him intently and said quietly, "I want to. Take me away from everyone. I just want to sit in silence and be quiet. Can you make me a holiday, Frank? Silence and not a living soul around. If you only knew how tired I am of all this fuss." He didn't say anything, silently took her by the hand, and just like that, in his concert suit, he led her out the back door. They climbed the outside stairs like thieves. Then he put her on a huge black motorcycle, put her helmet on, and said, "Hold on tight," and they raced. Maria had never experienced such a drive and thrill before. The night, the blinding car lights, the speed, and the refreshing summer wind. They drove for quite a long time, and when the companion turned into the forest, Maria tensed up. There was no telling what was on the mind of this reckless guy. But once she found herself in a wonderful clearing near a lake outside the city, she was thrilled. They barely spoke, sitting cuddled on the edge of the shore, dangling their feet in the cool water, and thinking, each about his own thing. Frank threw his warm leather biker jacket over her shoulders to keep her warm. And they both felt so good together, so relaxed, and didn't need anyone else around. Maria said quietly all of a sudden, "You know, I just realized right now that I don't want popularity or concerts, but to sit like this with my family and my son, and no one else. Do you understand? It's all such a tinsel. I'm so exhausted, I can't see LX, and he takes offense, he misses me. I mean, we've never been away from him for long." Frank turned her sharply toward him, and suddenly kissed her passionately on the lips without asking permission. She tried to pull away at first, but her passion overwhelmed her, and she responded to the kiss. Millions of electric shocks shot through her body. Her whole being quivered and asked for more. After catching his breath, the man said quietly, "Maria, marry me. I will love your son, I will, because he is no longer a stranger to me. He is a part of you and my best friend. I promise you won't regret your decision. Only I'm not ready to share you with millions of fans. I want a real, close-knit family. I don't need anyone but you, you know? I fell in love with you back then, and I've never been able to forget you, even though you didn't even know it. Give me back your gorgeous blonde hair, be yourself." Maria was taken aback by this unexpected offer on the first night we met, but then she remembered Camille's story and answered, "I guess everything that's going on right now is total insanity from the outside, and I'm a fool, but I agree. I hope so. I won't regret it ever. I want to believe you, Frank. I'm so tired of being alone. I just want to be a weak woman." And once again, they kissed passionately. And they didn't open their embrace until dawn. Maria had not felt so good and calm in her soul for a long time. It seemed to her as if they had known each other for 1,000 years, because they felt each other even without words. And in the morning, back in the city, Maria once again abruptly changed her life. She went completely into the shadows, agreed with the producer that there would be no public performances, only recording songs occasionally and for the soul. Yes, it was a breach of contract, and she had to pay a penalty, so be it. Took Alex away from her grandparents and moved to live in Frank's 2-bedroom apartment downtown. She was, of course, scared out of her mind because, in fact, she had no idea what kind of character Frank was. Would he love Alex? Would they get along? She did not know why she trusted so blindly. In fact, a complete stranger, she just felt inwardly that he would not let her down, and that's all. She disappeared from the stage and screens as suddenly as she appeared, and only sometimes new hits with her voice appeared on the radio. Fans continued to storm the house, hoping to catch Mia there, but all in vain. They wondered why did the rising star leave the stage at the peak of her popularity? I mean, isn't that silly? She could have made a fortune. To be famous all over the country. They didn't realize that Maria chose woman's happiness, which is much more important than any shows and concerts, and it can't be bought with any money in the world. Maria and Frank quietly married and began to live as an ordinary family. With Alex, the man immediately found a common language and got along, because the boy was very good-natured and open. The boy was sincerely glad that his mother was with him again, that his father appeared, that they went for walks together, watched movies, and rode bikes in the park. Maria grew her beautiful blonde, long hair again, slipped into her favorite jeans, wiped off tons of makeup, and became herself. There was no need to lusciously sweet smile, to answer tricky and uncomfortable questions, and stay at these buffets, where almost every other man just trying to look up her skirt and pester. She felt so good and comfortable in her little world, the three of us, that she didn't need anything else. They didn't forget her grandparents. They visited regularly with Alex. The businessman understood her desire to go into the shadows, especially Kevin. "You did all right, girl." How many of them, stars, who went off into the sunset as quickly as they lit up and live out their lives alone, at the very bottom, needing no one? Fame, alas, is fleeting, but family is forever. If you feel in your heart that you love, you should choose family. Alex was so worried when you were on the recordings all the time. He didn't need toys or entertainment or the phone right away. He was ready to give it all up just to have his mom around. But childhood is only once, and you can't get it back, and it's hard to make up for lost time. So you are a good girl that you understood that. We're proud of you. I think Frank is a good man. He won't let you get hurt. Maria hugged Kevin heartily. Thank you for your support. I'm just apparently not a very public person. I don't like meddling in my private life, and all this is not for me. It's much nicer for me to watch movies at home with my family than to answer journalists' questions. I record a few songs a month, and that's it. It brings me a tangible income and pleasure because I like singing, no matter how you look at it. I don't need anything else. Frank is good. He works as a foreman in a construction company, so he provides for us decently. How is the nurse? Is she coping with her duties? Kevin laughed. Well, more or less. But I'm certainly not going to find such a soulful caregiver like you. But you have become the closest and dearest to us, and Alex too, and I'm very happy about that. Camille and I no longer feel like lonely, unwanted old people. I have already signed over the whole business to Alex. When we are gone, it will all be rightfully his. When he grows up, I'll teach him and make him ready for it. To raise, so to speak, a worthy replacement. Maria felt sorry for me. Thank you and Camille for everything. If it wasn't for her, I don't even know how my life would have turned out at all. You helped me get back on my feet at the hardest time of my life, without even knowing that Alex was your grandson. Just like that, in a human way. And that is worth a lot. Frank turned out to be a wonderful husband and father, and Maria didn't regret just going with him then, trusting him blindly. He was nothing like Andrew, a jolly, jovial man. Frank was not much of a talker, sometimes even taciturn, but he proved his love every day by his actions. For Maria, a simple, "Are you dressed warmly?" or "Alex, eat your soup." You're ruining your stomach from your childhood. I'm worried. Or you didn't sleep well today. Are you sick by any chance? Anything bothering you? He could, without asking, just give Maria a pair of gold earrings or take everyone to the skating rink. Alex taught me the right things, that you should respect your mother, love her, be a man, don't let her cry, and carry heavy things, and always take care of her. And that quiet family happiness was much more important to Maria than popularity and public appearances. A year went by. Maria had long ago gotten used to the role of wife, always waiting for Frank from work, trying to cook something delicious. The whole family, including Kevin, had just returned a week ago from a wonderful trip to the sea. The man resisted to the last minute and didn't want to go. Why should I, as a wheelchair user? But Maria and Camille were adamant. They really wanted Kevin to sit by the sea again, to bask in the sun, to experience the delights of relaxation. Frank also supported the idea. The two men had long been friends, back when Andrew was alive, and they were close friends. Of course, the trip was hard for Kevin. He was very tired and exhausted. But when they brought him to the coast, and he first breathed the sea's stupefying spicy breeze, heard the sound of the surf and waves rolling one on one beautifully, he realized that all those sacrifices are nothing compared with the indescribable beauty. All days the man enjoyed his vacation to the fullest. With the help of special inflatable sleeves and a mattress, he was perfectly on the water, swam, and enjoyed these inexpressible sensations. And there's nothing to talk about Alex. It was almost impossible to get him out of the sea. Frank gave him a mask and flippers, and now the young diver was hunting for crabs and shells underwater. The boy was completely delighted with the sea. He had dreamed about it so much, drew all in pictures. And Camille finally got away from everything and relaxed completely. It was vital for her. When the whole family after dinner in the late evening dispersed to their cabins, and Alex was sound asleep with his grandparents, it was time for the youth. Maria and Frank, almost until dawn, wandered along the promenade, listening to live music, drinking sweet Crimean wine, and could not break the embrace. And then they went to the sea and swam. It was so amazing to swim at night when no one was around, and then to love each other as hot and frantic as the first night they met. All in all, everyone had a great time and experienced the best emotions. Upon arrival, the usual everyday routine began and everything went on as usual. After a month, Maria already felt the familiar symptoms: nausea, nervousness, and heaviness in the lower abdomen. She knew the answer already, without any doctors or tests. She was pregnant. She and Frank had never talked about it. The man had never pressured her, never asked her to have the baby, raised Alex, and seemed content with everything. The woman panicked a little. How will he take the news? Is he ready for parenthood? Will he love Alex as much as he does now? Maria decided to consult with Camille, the closest person she had, and rushed straight to her office. She was, of course, happy to see Maria, but she was surprised that she had come to work. So something very important had happened. The women sat down in the office. The secretary brought them coffee, and Camille asked foreheadedly, "What happened?" "You're not wearing a face. Don't drag it out, just tell it like it is. We'll figure something out together." Maria swallowed frantically and blurted out, "Camille, I'm pregnant. What should I do? I'm so scared. What if Frank Alex likes me less? In fact, how do I tell him?" The woman leaned back in her chair, took off her glasses, and laughed heartily. "You're a real riot. I thought something was wrong. Congratulations, that's wonderful. Every man wants a baby with his wife. Why are you getting yourself all worked up? Why are you making up all these horror stories?" Maria babbled. "But he never talked about it at all, never even mentioned children. What if he doesn't eat it? I'm so afraid of losing the person I love again, like I did with Andrew, you know?" Camille just waved her hand. "You were both young and stupid then. Things are different now. Frank is just different. He keeps all his emotions inside. That doesn't mean he doesn't want kids. He just shows patience and tact, doesn't push you, and waits for it to happen on its own. And Alexei won't fall out of love. Don't worry for nothing. Today, call him now and tell him. I'm waiting. Otherwise, I know you'll be torturing yourself and me for a couple of months." Maria took out her phone and dialed Frank's number, who answered anxiously. "Hello. Is something wrong? You've never called me at work before. Alex what? Or are you sick?" Maria was quite embarrassed, but Camille showed her her fist, and she made up her mind. "Frank, I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. Are you excited?" There was silence on the phone, and then he answered just as calmly. "That's great. All right, on Tuesday, I'll make an appointment for you to see a good doctor and get you registered. No worries, no worries. And don't even think about going to the gym or your crazy diets. Eat what you want. We'll talk about it tonight. Bye." Maria exhaled and almost cried. Camille, why is he like that? Didn't say he was happy. That he was happy. Andrew was different. Camille answered, frowning. "Come on, silly. Yes, he's not jumping up and down, but he's already thinking ahead. How to take care of you. He's a real man and the head of the family. You can't find a man like that nowadays. And you're getting yourself worked up for nothing. I think Alex will be thrilled to have a little brother or sister. Kevin and I will be babysitting another grandchild too, you know that. That's it, silly, run on home and get the holiday dinner ready. Make the family happy. It's such an occasion. I'll make Kevin happy tonight too. May I?" Maria picked Alex up from kindergarten, and they baked a cake for Daddy together. Frank was a terrible sweet tooth. At last the front door opened, and my beloved entered the apartment. He was holding a huge bouquet of flowers. He gave them to Maria with the words, "Today is the best day of my life. Thank you, honey. Now our family will be even bigger and stronger." And then tossed, as always, a joyful Alex up and informed him, "Do you know you're going to have a little brother or sister soon? You are very lucky. You're going to be the oldest, which means you're in charge. Isn't that great?" Alex thought, as always, seriously, and then answered, "But make sure he obeys me and doesn't break my toys." "Okay." Everyone laughed and kissed the baby, and Frank responded just as seriously, "That's a deal. Come on, let's go to dinner. Who's first to wash their hands?" And like little children, they raced to the bathroom. And Maria looked at them with a tender smile and was the happiest wife and mother in the world at that moment.